It was a quiet afternoon at a small town diner when a group of bikers spotted a single mother and her teenage son sitting in the corner booth. The boy, who had Down syndrome, was happily chatting with his mom, unaware of the stares and whispers from the leather-clad strangers nearby. Their snickers and mocking comments echoed across the room, but the mother stayed calm, holding her son's hand tightly, as if she'd endured this kind of treatment before. What the bikers didn't know, however, was that this seemingly ordinary man had a past far from ordinary. Beneath his unassuming demeanor lay a story of bravery and sacrifice in the military, a story that would soon silence the laughter and leave the bikers questioning everything they thought they knew. What happened next would not only change their perception, but also their hearts. Stay tuned to discover the powerful truth. The mother kept her focus on her son, gently reminding him to finish his meal. She was used to moments like this, people staring, judging, and sometimes even laughing at her little family. But today felt different. The bikers weren't just whispering. Their voices grew louder, their laughter sharper. A couple of them even stood up, tossing glances her way as if daring her to respond. What they didn't realize was that the man seated nearby, quietly sipping his coffee, had been watching everything unfold. His presence was easy to miss. Dressed in a plain jacket, weathered by years of use, he blended into the background. But his sharp eyes missed nothing. As one biker leaned toward the mother's table, a smirk on his face, the man rose to his feet. The room seemed to pause. Who was this quiet stranger, and what was he about to do? The tension was unbearable. The biker stopped at the mother's table, his shadow stretching across the pair. "Cute kid," he said, his voice dripping with mockery. The mother glanced up, her calm exterior hiding the storm inside. She squeezed her son's hand, silently reassuring him. "Thank you," she replied softly, refusing to take the bait. From the corner of the diner, the quiet man set his coffee cup down. His movements were slow, deliberate, and the sound of the cup meeting the table seemed louder than it should have been. The biker turned, noticing him for the first time. "Something you want to say, old man?" He sneered, clearly feeling untouchable with his crew behind him. The man met the biker's gaze, unflinching. "I've seen your type before," he said, his voice calm but carrying an edge that made the room feel smaller. "And trust me, you don't want to cross this line." The bikers laughed, their leader puffing up his chest. But there was something in the stranger's tone, something unsettling. The tension in the room thickened as the other diners looked on, unsure of what would happen next. Who was this man, and why did he seem so unshakable? The bikers had no idea they were about to find out. The biker stepped closer to the man, trying to assert his dominance. "You've seen my type. And what exactly is that?" He taunted, smirking as his crew chuckled behind him. The man didn't flinch. His eyes remained steady, calm, yet piercing. There was something about him, something that even the loudest laughter couldn't shake. The mother, still seated, glanced toward the stranger, her curiosity growing. She had no idea who he was, but she could feel the air shift in the room. Her son, oblivious to the tension, played with his straw, unaware of the storm brewing around him. The man slowly reached into his jacket, and for a brief second, the bikers tensed, as if expecting something dramatic. Instead, he pulled out a small, worn patch, faded but unmistakable. It bore an emblem that silenced even the toughest of men, the insignia of an elite military unit. The biker leader froze, his confidence wavering. "What's that supposed to mean?" he muttered, trying to mask his unease. The man's voice, low and measured, cut through the tension like a blade. "It means you're standing in front of someone who's done more for this country than you'll ever understand." The room went silent. Eyes darted between the stranger and the bikers, waiting for what would happen next. The leader's bravado faltered, but he wasn't ready to back down just yet. The man's calm exterior remained unshaken, but the weight of his past was now undeniably present, hanging in the air like a storm about to break. The leader of the bikers shifted uncomfortably, trying to regain his confidence. "So what? You think that patch scares me?" He sneered, but his voice had lost its earlier edge. The man didn't respond right away. Instead, he let the silence settle, his steady gaze doing all the talking. One of the younger bikers stepped forward, clearly curious. "What unit is that?" he asked, his tone more cautious than confrontational. The leader shot him a glare, but the question lingered. The man finally spoke, his voice steady and calm. "It's not about scaring anyone. It's about respect for people who've sacrificed so you could have the freedom to mock others in a diner." The younger biker hesitated, his eyes flicking to the patch. Recognition dawned, and his bravado melted away. "Wait, is that?" he started to say, but the leader cut him off. "Don't listen to him. He's just another washed-up old man." But the stranger wasn't done. "Washed up," he repeated, his tone quiet yet firm. "Let me tell you something. I've seen friends give their lives to protect this country, to protect people like that mother and her son. And if you think for 1 second I'll let you bully them, you've got another thing coming." The room tensed, but before anyone could respond, the diner door swung open. A tall man in uniform stepped in, his eyes scanning the scene. He froze when he saw the patch in the stranger's hand, then straightened into a salute. "Sir," he said, his voice full of respect. The bikers looked between the uniformed man and the stranger, their confusion turning to unease. The leader's cocky grin vanished completely. Whatever they'd gotten themselves into, it was now far bigger than they'd anticipated. The diner fell silent as all eyes turned to the uniformed man, who stood at attention, his salute unwavering. The stranger gave him a small nod, almost reluctant, before gesturing for him to lower his hand. "At ease, soldier," he said calmly, as if the moment didn't carry the weight it clearly did. The leader of the bikers looked rattled now, his earlier bravado nowhere to be found. Who are you?" he finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The stranger leaned forward slightly, his expression unyielding. "I'm someone who's seen enough of this kind of behavior to know it doesn't come from strength. It comes from fear," he said. "And trust me, I've faced real threats. You're not one of them." The young biker who had recognized the patch spoke again, his voice trembling. "He's special forces, isn't he?" The stranger didn't confirm or deny it, but the look in his eyes was answer enough. At that moment, the mother stood, her hand still clutching her son's. "Thank you," she said softly to the stranger, her voice carrying a mix of gratitude and quiet strength. But before anyone could respond, the uniformed man addressed the bikers directly. "Do you have any idea who you're standing in front of? This man is a decorated war hero. If it weren't for people like him, you wouldn't have the freedom to walk into this diner and act the way you're acting." The leader of the bikers stammered, his tough exterior crumbling. "We didn't know. We didn't mean." The stranger raised a hand, cutting him off. "It's not about me. It's about understanding that everyone deserves respect. That mother and her son, they're stronger than you'll ever be because they don't need to put others down to feel powerful." The bikers shifted uncomfortably, muttering half-hearted apologies before quietly leaving the diner, their swagger gone. As the door closed behind them, the mother turned to the stranger. "You didn't have to do that," she said. He gave her a small smile. "Sometimes people just need to be reminded what real strength looks like," he replied. But as he picked up his coffee again, the uniformed man leaned in and said quietly, They'll never forget you, sir. None of us will. The stranger looked out the window, his face unreadable. Good, he said after a pause. Maybe next time, they'll think twice. As the stranger finished his coffee, the diner slowly returned to its usual rhythm. The other patrons murmured quietly, still processing what they had just witnessed. The mother guided her son toward the counter to pay their bill, but before she could reach into her purse, the stranger stood and placed a few bills down. "This one's on me," he said with a gentle nod, his tone soft and kind now. The mother hesitated, her eyes filling with gratitude. "Thank you," she said again, her voice carrying the weight of emotions she couldn't put into words. The man gave a faint smile before stepping outside. The young biker who had questioned him lingered by the parking lot, looking conflicted. "Sir," he called out hesitantly. I didn't mean any disrespect." The stranger paused, looking at him for a long moment. "Just remember," he said, "respect is something you show, not just say." With that, he walked away, his figure disappearing into the distance. Inside the diner, the mother watched him go, a sense of peace washing over her. The lesson he left behind lingered, reminding everyone there that kindness and courage can change even the hardest hearts.